right, well, appreciate you all coming out. It is a little toasty, not quite as much as it was this weekend, but here to talk about a new requirement for cooling systems for houses in Albuquerque. So to get us started, Mayor Tim Keller.
All right. Thanks, folks. We're here at a very specific location for a reason. And I'll just begin by letting folks know we're out on our west side of Albuquerque and kind of around Coors and Ladera. But this apartment complex is one of the city's apartment complexes. It's a little known fact that the city actually owns multiple affordable housing units all throughout the city. And we wanted to emphasize this particular location because when we say throughout the city, we literally mean that. We have facilities on the west side and on the east side and in the middle of the city. And they're really spread out, and that's a good thing for the city. And they're in great shape. Which is an aside, we want to invite our media partners are welcome to take a look at a unit and even film inside, just so you know the kind of, we think for what affordable housing is, high quality housing options for folks with limited income. Now, as part of that though, citywide, not just for our facilities, our city councilor, who we'll hear from just a minute, led a charge to try and make sure that we're doing what we can to protect tenants and to make sure that they have the same sort of rights that we all expect from anywhere where we want to live. And that might sound like a generic thing, but it's hard to believe that in Albuquerque, New Mexico, until just a few months ago in this past, we did not actually require air conditioners. And the interesting thing is, you might say, well, it's only because it's hot some parts of the year. We have always required heaters, right? And in many ways, when you put this together, the law actually speaks to cooling systems and cooling things of all specific technical makeup. But the point is, everyone has a right to either not freeze and not die from heat stroke in their house. That's all this does. But believe it or not, it took City Council and Councilor Feeblecorn to change the law in the city to make sure that everyone actually can have that in their house. And we know that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of units that people have been living in that do not have air conditioning. And so the planning department is also here to put folks on notice. This is the law in Albuquerque and we're going to enforce it. And so we're also letting folks know you've had a grace period, time to get ready. We wanted to make sure that everyone had the amount of time to get ready, but also time is running out when the temperature starts going up. And so that's also what we're putting people on notice about today. So with that, we just want to acknowledge not only the changes in law, but also over the past several days, we have added some things by executive order to really make sure that our city continues to do what we can for renters and tenants and make sure that they have, for example, heat resilient housing, that there's adequate public health precautions that are taken, and some other health preparedness initiatives that are part of our effort in general to continue focusing on climate change and resilience no matter what is happening in DC. We're going to stand up for folks, especially renters and tenants in Albuquerque, and when it comes to combining that with our efforts to reduce climate change. So with more on cooling systems in all rental units, let's hear from our counselor and sponsor of this, Counselor Tammy Feeblecorn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am so proud of this piece of legislation. This is one of the ones that is a highlight of my tenure on council because I truly believe that every single person who lives in our community has a right to a safe and healthy home. Doesn't matter how little you make or how much you make, everyone should have a home where they can be safe and healthy. And over the years in my office, we've gotten calls from so many people who are literally scorching in their living room in the heat of the summer and saying, can you help me? My landlord will not fix this or will not install a cooling system. And I was really shocked to find that there was no requirement for cooling in rental units across our city. That's ridiculous. And so when we found that out, we said, this is one that we can probably win. We've lost a lot, but we can win this one as a tenant protection, and we can get this done for the people of Albuquerque. Because let me be clear, it's getting hot. Hot, hot, hot. Climate change is changing the entire landscape of our city. When I moved into my house 23 years ago, I didn't really need a cooling system. I was just fine. That is not the case anymore. Urban heat island impacts, climate change have made it where you cannot live in a home in the city of Albuquerque without a cooling system. You will be sick, you will have days off work, you will not be a productive member of society, and you'll be miserable. And so I'm really, really glad that we got this through. Now I want to be clear, this is not the be-all end-all of tenant protections. I want much more. And we've tried for much more over the years. And we lose more than we win. It's a situation of haves versus have-nots. And guess who usually wins when it's haves versus have-nots? It's the haves. But this bill was the turning point. Years of organizing, of people sticking with me through failed attempt after failed attempt after failed attempt. We've tried at the city, we've tried at the state. Every one of our proposals failed until this one. So organizing works because we finally tipped the scale and said, no, tenants do deserve some protection. Right after this bill passed, we passed another bill that says that now we're going to prioritize tenant complaints against landlords through our city zoning and planning department so that we can actually enforce these laws that we have. So we're moving towards tenant protections for all of the people who live in our city. I'm very, very proud, and I'm really appreciative of the work that we do together with the mayor to make sure that we focus on tenant protections and making sure that we get the benefits of all of these great technologies like heat pumps that fight climate change. We want to get those to our lowest income neighbors as well. So thank you for being here to celebrate this win today.
Thanks so much, Councilor. And with more on some of the details of this, our Planning Director, Alan Varela.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. The weather is definitely warming up. We're almost at the season where everybody's going to be turning on their AC units, whatever type you have. But as the city councilor was saying, Albuquerque's been getting warmer and warmer. I know when I moved to Albuquerque for college several years back, the 100-degree day was relatively rare. Now we all know that that's quite normal for oftentimes several weeks at a time. And so people are experiencing heat exhaustion, heat stroke, and other ailments due to the fact that they don't have cooling in their house. So now all rental properties in Albuquerque, whether it's an apartment complex, a townhome, or an individual home that's for rent, is required to have a cooling system. And that's the right thing to do. And we're grateful to the City Council and to the Councilor Feeble-Corn for getting the law passed and having it enacted. Thank you.
Okay, and before we go to our next speaker too, and just a reminder, I think it's pretty obvious, but just want to state, if you own your own home, it's still a choice, right? So if you have the traditional adobe house in the valley, this is about renters and homes that are for rent. Okay, wait for our fire truck to go by here. All right, busy street today. Okay, so to wrap things up, we also want to just touch on the city's efforts with respect to affordable housing. And so for that, we have our Deputy Director of Housing from our Health and Housing and Homelessness Department, Joseph Montoya.
Mayor, thank you very much. And I wanted to actually personally congratulate and really applaud both the mayor and Councilor Feeble-Corn for their leadership in this particular area. The reason why you're here is not only the issue of climate change, but one of the issues is really the need for more affordable housing. Within the past 5 years, rents have gone up 30% within the city of Albuquerque. And when you only have a 5 to 6% vacancy rate, some owners of properties are a little less likely to kind of fix up their place and a little less likely to put in those necessary accoutrements that really make people comfortable because they know there's 5 or 6 people waiting for there. So this ordinance is really something that's needed desperately, and we're certainly supportive of it. Behind you is actually one of the units, as the mayor had mentioned, of the city of Albuquerque owns. And we chose this particular one because we have just put in brand new heating systems in it, as we will be doing with all our units in terms to increase the energy efficiency of all our units. And I did want to say this issue of both climate change, which is incredibly important, this issue of affordable housing, are connected in many single ways. So it's important that any units that we provide are energy efficient and effective for those renters and for the owners, whether it be the city of Albuquerque or be other owners that we are able to work with in terms of providing affordable housing. I did want to say within the next few weeks, there's going to be several $1 million, $18 million worth of funding coming through the City Council for additional affordable housing. And so both the mayor and Councilor Fibicurn are firmly behind these efforts in order to increase the supply of affordable housing. And next year, we hope to be able to put $35 million worth of funding for affordable housing, new affordable housing for the residents of the city of Albuquerque. So the city of Albuquerque is completely behind the issue of creating more affordable housing opportunities and hopefully then making also the market a little more acceptable to providing those accoutrements that people need in order to live a good, healthy life. Because they need it, because hopefully we'll get to the point where the renters have a choice of where they can live, not just owners of apartment buildings. So thank you very much. Appreciate that.
All right, well, thank you again to our partners in media for coming out today. We did want to have this event to make sure that both tenants and property owners are aware of this new law in Albuquerque and know that tenants have their rights and then the property owners have the responsibility to have cooling units. We also will have some photos and videos available for members of the press. We did the event here today as well because you have probably seen some of our maintenance staff going up and down the ladders. They're doing the AC conversion, hooking up the evaporative cooling system here today at this apartment complex. So we'll make sure that you have some photos and videos from up on the roof. If you'd like to go in the unit and get some video or photo of the new heating that Mr. Montoya spoke about, you're welcome to do that. But we can take any questions if you have them.
Can you just kind of walk us through the enforcement process from when the complaint is being filed?
Absolutely. So the question is around enforcement and walking us through the process. So to take that question, we have Angela Metzger from our Code Enforcement Division.
Hello, and thank you for being here. So the enforcement process will be just like any other Uniform Housing Code process, which is we get the complaint, we will reach out to the tenant, schedule the inspection, go out, verify there's a violation, and get the notice out to the property owner, giving him a certain amount of time to put the cooling in.
How much time typically is the time that you get?
That will change on a base-to-base, on a case-by-case basis, just because of different conditions that could be there.
I don't know if the counselor wants to add anything. There was, which was alluded to today, additional resources for code enforcement so that they have more support to be able to address tenant complaints. So a big priority for the city and for the counselor. All right.
In terms of, you talked about climate change and things getting hotter. Obviously, evaporative cooling kind of has a ceiling in terms of how successful it can be at a certain level. So, which kind of begs the question if this is enough, given having 180 days as time goes on.
Yeah, sure, go ahead, counselor.
Thank you for that really good question. I will just point out that when this legislation was originally proposed, we had a set degree requirement, right? So if you are in a building that has, say, little to no insulation and you're running an evaporative cooler, that is not going to cool that building down enough to make it super comfortable for the inhabitants. Through the legislative process to get anything through, we did have to remove that temperature set point, which was unfortunate. But I think that in general, having that movement of air, the cooler air through the building is certainly better than nothing. And we will continue to try to make that better and stronger in the future.
I'll just add, I can't resist because one of my first jobs in high school was winterizing and summerizing evaporative air conditioners or swamp coolers. And we just want to acknowledge, right, all of them also work. It depends how old they are. There's a high variability on them. And that's also why Angelo mentioned that, we're going to set some minimum bars to make sure that best efforts is being made and that it's, sort of a swamp cooler that actually works and that kind of stuff. So that's really in the weeds, but code enforcement is going to do that. So what we're not going to tolerate is there's a broken swamp cooler on the roof, or the fan works but the pump doesn't. We're going to make sure the pump also works. All the way from encouraging things like heat pumps, which actually are a better way to do the whole thing.
All right, got anything, Dom? All good?
Okay, all right. So
There's this.
since this for renters, people that might be watching this at home, and let's say they don't feel their air conditioning is up to standard, is there somebody that they can reach out to on this matter?
Yes, as always, we recommend that they call 311. That is the best way to report, and not only that, they'll get a tracking number where they can see the progress through that system.
And I guess also an understanding as well, this isn't on, it's not solely of the responsible now of the tenant, it's more of the apartment owners. This is something that needs to be enforced, correct?
Right. The law applies to the landlords, to the apartment owners, to the owners of houses that are for rent. Landlords have to comply. Our advice is that they immediately, if they haven't done it already, fix their systems now, because we will not be very lenient with them if we find out they have a system and they've simply been neglectful. So if it's a swamp cooler, change your filters, check the pump, make sure nothing's clogged up, make sure the motor's running well. You know, it's not that hard. It's just a matter of wanting to do the right thing for your tenant.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure. I know there's people at home that are going to be watching, wanting to know what to do, and now it's getting hotter, they want to act soon, so thank you.
Yes, well, thank you all for coming out. Again, if you'd like to take a peek inside the unit or talk to us after, welcome to do that. Welcome to do that, so thanks.
Can you say your back footage too?
So they have footage.